Wäre mal sinnvoll, ne? Wäre ja mal sinnvoll. So. Läuft, sitzt, wackelt und hat Luft. Jo, so. Ich merke mir mal nicht, wie das Ding heißt. Community Checkpoint für diese Season findet jetzt statt und ich darf das co-streamen. Also so gesehen danke Ubisoft dafür. Und dann mache ich das auch mal, ne? Artig und fleißig und brav. Oh, Mann. Wir werden aber Eukalyptusbonbon nehmen, weil irgendwie will mein Hals nicht so. Wie ich will. So, eben blieb ein Counter. Sprich, lief runter. Dann war auf einmal gespielt. Bei unter 15 Minuten. Da ist er wieder hochgegangen. Und jetzt steht er, wie wir back zu. Soll ja theoretisch auch erst in 3 Minuten losgehen. Also von daher. Ja, dann wollen wir mal schauen, was die Devs sich für Rainbow Six Siege einfallen lassen haben. Für die nächsten Patches oder den nächsten Patch erstmal vielleicht. Und was dann noch kommen da soll, darf, wird. Menno, Menno, Menno. Bam, 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 bam. Bin gespannt, was da jetzt kommen mag. Vor allem, wie lange es noch dauert. Ob pünktlich oder doch noch später. Ja. Jo, Streams sollten laufen. Alle, die ich angemacht habe. Mhm. Habe ich noch irgendwas vergessen? Nö, ne? Lüpp, 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 lüpp. Ach ja. Mhm. Wie gesagt. Genau, Season Review Panel, Community Checkpoint. Mhm. Ich gucke gerade mal rein, was da noch kommen könnte. Auf jeden Fall erstmal die Mid-Season. Und dann reiner. Mhm. Oh Mann, oh Mann, oh Mann. Na komm. Let's go. So. Ein paar Sekunden noch, oder? Ja, ein paar Sekunden noch, dann wäre es 18 Uhr. Oh, sorry. Wie gesagt, ich krieg das Kratzen nicht weg.
Hey everyone, welcome to our second ever community checkpoint. I am John Spinarius, community developer here on Rainbow Six Siege.
Let's go.
I'm joined by two wonderful devs who I'm going to allow to introduce themselves here.
Hi, I'm Christopher Budgeon, live content director. I handle a lot of aspects such as playlists, matchmaking, progression, all those things outside of the match.
And I'm Joshua Mills, creative director on Siege, and I mostly just annoy Chris with a whole bunch of crazy suggestions and ideas. Now, I help lead the team in the overall vision of where we want to take Siege, and yeah.
I mean, you guys probably already seen them before if you watched any of our reveals, but yeah, that suffice to say, we're going to go into some interesting discussions here today. And for a refresher, I guess, for those who didn't see the first community checkpoint, what we want to do here is kind of target the things that you guys are saying out on our community and our socials, you know, bringing it up in our feedback service, things like that, so that we can address the important things for you. So that being said, we do have one other person here behind the scenes again. It's Adrian Russo from our marketing team, and he is going to be observing a Siege Team League match, or an STL match. It's the internal league we have here at Ubisoft, because we not only love making Siege, we love playing Siege as well. We're passionate on all levels, and well, right now we don't have everything going into the server just yet, but you can see Adrian just going through, yeah. Well, I mean, we're getting ready, essentially, to get going with the STL match. But that being said, we have a lot to talk about, so let's jump right into that.
Ja, ich bin mal gespannt.
Our topics of discussion. You guys are going to
Rank Pool, Mid-Season Balancing, Dockable Remaster.
Ranked map rotation and the mid-season balancing that we've already talked about publicly, but we're also going to go into a discussion on Dokkaebi Remaster. Not too much details, just a little bit to get you guys a bit more context on that. New onboarding that's coming, and player protection update, a quick one there. All that being said, let's jump into our first topic, which is the new ranked map rotation. There's going to be multiple changes coming to this, so why don't we just kick things off and talk about why you're changing things up for the ranked map rotation?
Yeah, sure. So we had 16 maps for a long time, and we wanted to try a new approach. We were, swapping out the maps. We were thinking at the beginning of the season and the mid-season as well, but it was our first time doing this, so we've actually learned a lot. We had announced all the maps for the full season at the beginning, purposely, because we were kind of testing the waters a little bit, and we certainly heard from our community loud and clear that some of those maps were not necessarily the competitive level that they were looking for. So basically, we've heard a couple things that are core to players. One are those new modernized maps that we've brought, like Oregon, Villa. I've gone through a modernization, all the destructible ingredients getting added, for example.
Ja,
Swapping
kaputt zerstörbar.
with less competitive maps was not really matching expectations for players, which is great to know, right?
Nee. Das Problem ist, warum die wieder da reinkommen, ist nicht, dass die Leute dass die anderen Maps nicht gut waren, sondern die Leute wollen nur diese Map spielen. Sorry, das ist so. Ach, Quatsch. Die wollen das spielen, aber die anderen wollen sie nicht, weil sie nichts Neues lernen wollen. Neue Maps wollen sie haben, und wenn sie kommen, oh, gefällt mir nicht, machen wir nicht. Es ist immer das Gleiche.
So actually, it'll be coming next week. I think it'll be shortly after our point 2 mid-season patch. So what's going to end up happening is that we're going to be adding 4 maps to that pool. So that'll be Canal, Theme Park, Outback, and Skyscraper are going to be added to the pool. So for this one time, we're going to boost the total size up to 17 from 13.
Okay, and actually you have it on your screen as well, folks, to give you an idea visually of what's going to be happening here. So we talked about the 4 maps being added, and then in Season 2 with Rank 3.0, it's going to change even further, right?
Yeah, so we have a new approach for Rank 3.0. So we really looked at, well, I would say we've learned a lot from this first attempt in Season 1. And so we changed basically the back end of how we're going to be able to rotate maps. So now if you picture the map ban phase, you have 5 maps that appear.
Right.
Yeah.
We're now going to be able to control those maps individually through different pools. So one of those is going to be the showcased pool. So the showcase pool we'll use primarily for new maps. So Calypso Casino is coming in Season 2. Now with this new showcase option, you'll actually be able to have Calypso Casino in every single map ban phase in the beginning of the season. That won't stay for the full season, but for the beginning of the season it'll be the case.
In Ordnung, also die neue Map bleibt dann in Season 2.
One will be the pro pool and one will be the seasonal pool. That means we don't have to kind of counterbalance the number of seasonal maps that we have in order to, rotate against the 9 maps that we have on pro. So for every ban phase, you'll have 2 pro maps, Calypso Casino, and 2 seasonal maps.
Okay, and we talked about the seasonal maps a little bit. Obviously, we're not going to be pulling from the full 8, right? Is that correct? It's just going to be 4 maps that
it'll be 4, and then after that, we're going to when we do a rotation, how that's going to work is that we're actually going to be listening to the community through the ban phases. So if there's a map that's not banned very often, so Oregon is a good example, right? It's a map that doesn't get banned that often, but it's a seasonal map. It's not currently in our pro league. That map might survive a rotation. So that we don't have to necessarily do 4 and 4.
Ach so, okay. Also je nachdem, wie die Band sind, wird es gemacht. Ja, aber das ist das Problem. Die Leute, die dann zum Beispiel wie Emerald Plain oder auch Liar, wird dann gesagt, nee, ich habe da keine Lust drauf. Oder Outback.
Okay, and is there a minimum amount of maps you want to rotate out, or I mean, obviously there's going to be some rotated out. I guess one would be the minimum, or is there something else?
Yeah, we still want there to be a seasonal flavor with those
exactly.
updates.
Yeah, if it's only one, it doesn't really invoke much change, and we want to be able to do that, like switch things up and kind of challenge it a little bit. I think there's a couple other things to note, like we mentioned the showcase pool. Right now, it's going to be Calypso in Season 2, but later in the year, we're going to have targeted map updates. There's a chance that we can actually place those maps in that slot. That's something we want to ask the community about, see what they think about that idea. So when the Villa update comes, maybe that becomes part of the showcase pool.
Okay, die Idee ist auch nicht schlecht. Also modernisierte Maps in Showcase Pool, um dann zu gucken, was die Leute dazu sagen.
Because of the adjustments we're doing and because of lots of different reasons, the seasonal surveys that we got this information from, which I think we'll dive into.
Yeah.
But beyond that, also the fact that whenever we do submissions in order to release content updates, there's a bit of a delay. There's a bit of a kind of a run up to that. There's certification and things. And because of that, we'll actually be delaying that rotation just a little bit in this season. But in the future, point 2, our rotations will hit and it'll be awesome.
Yeah.
Okay. Also jetzt wird es noch 1-2 Tage dauern und später, aber ansonsten geht's los. Sehr schön.
Yeah, so we launched our Season 1 seasonal survey, and we've now gotten the feedback. We actually put a number of questions in that seasonal survey about ranked map rotations. Okay. I was personally surprised how much Favela was hated. I knew it was not a top map. I didn't expect the amount of hate that it got. And one thing we don't want is really impact overall players' enjoyment in the ranked pool.
Right.
So basically, what it did highlight for us is that that's a map that we wanted to be in more of a a competitive place.
Right.
So maybe it needs some reworks. Maybe we need to do a little bit of work on that map.
Mm-hmm. But that's the key aspect on why that's not showing up in the rotation that we're doing in Season 1. So we were just listening to the community. We don't want that experience. It's okay. We're not going to do that. But we're going a little fun by adding more maps in.
And in terms of receiving feedback from everyone out there, what is the best way for them to get their voice heard?
The seasonal survey is the best. Like if we had to, prioritize them, the seasonal survey is a great structured way for us to get feedback. We do also watch a lot of content creator content. We're on socials. For sure, we do workshops with our community and our pros. But at the same time, the seasonal survey is the number one way to let players' voice be heard.
Yeah, so guys, keep talking on social media, keep making your posts on Reddit, all that stuff. But also, if you really want your voice to be heard, make sure you check out those seasonal surveys. Usually when we have one, or actually bottom right-hand corner of your screen once you launch the game, you'll see that it's coming up, or you'll see that there's an announcement for it. Click on it.
Genau, in-game sieht man die Info, ja, dass es kommt. Und dann ausfüllen.
So, all that being said, why don't we jump into check out what's happening in the STL match. I believe it's already started here. Yeah, we got Defenders winning round number 1. People might not know what STL is, so maybe we should give them some context here, Josh, right?
Yeah, so as you mentioned, it's the Siege Team League. Yeah. So basically, internally, we run a tournament with all the developers on Siege. There are a couple different
eigenes Team.
There's recreational for maybe you just joined the team, maybe you've never played Siege before. We can get you in the recreational league, and then there's the advanced league. That's where our champion players are sitting and stuff like this. And if you have a lot of playtime, that's usually where you end up, which means I get stomped by champion players, which is great.
Was ist denn das bei Ramp für einen
But
Tropf?
it's a fantastic way for us to play the game together, get super excited, and kind of hold this like internal tournament. There's a trophy.
Irgendwie habe ich den nicht auf dem Schirm.
Stuff like this, and we do a live stage kind of a finale and stuff. It's a
big celebration. Yeah, we all have drinks and stuff together. And honestly, you mentioned it's a great way to learn Siege. Like we do have new people coming onto the Siege team all the time, jumping into the SDL. You have coaches. You have floor plans and blueprints of the maps. You know who's playing which operator. There's a whole lot of strat and
That really depends on who the coach is, because like some of the coaches are crazy. And when I say this, like most of the coaches are actually like our champ level or very advanced players, and they'll be a coach for the rec league as well, but also the advanced league. And some of them are super hardcore, where you'll show up and you'll get a folder with homework and like dossiers on all our opponents. Like the fact that I can't see people's names right now is a little frustrating, because I could use this to like pull strats off of what they're doing and then use it against them. But I know my team's already watching this, so we'll be all right.
You've got people recently. We take it seriously, folks.
Aber auch interessant, ne? Interne Liga.
But yeah, let's jump back into our discussion here on mid-season balancing now. We want to talk about this. We're going to make an announcement.
Jetzt das Wichtigste gefühlt.
here in the balancing patch. And I guess for the first topic here, Josh, how many operators are being targeted?
Well, yeah. So, I mean, this is the mid-season patch. So this is a major balancing update. We have 2 of these per season, one at the season launch and then one mid-season, which is happening very soon. So you can expect bigger changes here. Stuff that has more impact, kind of changes an operator's position within their overall impact of the game as well. So we are actually bringing 8 operators are being modified.
Okay, and
8 Operator.
Important factor when you're selecting the operators to modify.
Well, I kind of mentioned it right there about impact. So all our operators should have impact, and they should have it in specific scenarios. We don't want one operator just being the one size fits all and be able to do everything. But we want every operator to have their moment to shine, their scenario to shine, so that when you're getting the good intel, you're getting the read on the team. Maybe you're
okay. Operator darf nicht komplett alles können, aber soll schon soll schon so sein, dass du dann bei Spreads und etc. Der speziell dafür besser passend als ein anderer ist.
Okay, and we have a lot of operators, 8 total that are being targeted here. Why don't you give me a top 3 of the ones you feel have the most significant changes, starting with number 3, let's say.
Number 3. Okay. All right.
Or maybe number 1, actually.
Well, I mean, it'll differ between people, obviously.
I
I know which one's mine, so I'll say which one's mine when we get to it. But we'll start off with a big one because there's multiple changes happening to this operator, which is Aurora.
Yes.
So for those who don't know, she has this DOM panel launcher. It's a device that allows her
to
close down doorways and take a lot of control as an attacker, which is fantastic. Some of the big adjustments here, and when you look at the device, it's been very kind of shared between attackers and defenders. What I mean by that is like a defender can utilize it against the attackers if they're clever and kind of play around it. But what we're doing here is
10 Meter mehr Reichweite. Okay.
So it's more responsive to our attackers and more reliable for the attacking side of the fight. On top of that, there's comfort stuff going into it and allowing her to take that ground faster.
Okay.
One big thing is the range.
Also Attacker Team 3 Sekunden.
From 15 meters up to 25. And the biggest factor here is instead of having one panel to start, she's actually getting all 4 right off the bat. Yeah, so she can move very quickly, deploy these very, very fast.
Und jetzt nur noch eine Sekunde.
For anyone using her, it's a real projectile, the actual DOM panel. So if you don't hold your line of sight well enough or hold the angle kind of weird, you're actually going to hit the surface. So make sure you've got your line of sight to the essentially the doorway you're locking onto, and then take that space.
Okay, we have our number 1 then.
Das ist ein geiles Ding. Die alte von 3 Sekunden auf 6 Sekunden erhöht und für die Verteidiger und für die Attacker von 3 Sekunden auf 1 Sekunde verringert. Und 10 Meter mehr Reichweite, also jetzt 25 Meter.
1 second is a lifetime.
Yes.
And we just tripled that. So 6 seconds is massive. And it can really stop you from getting caught off guard. Also do your timing better for when you put these panels up, thinking in your head, okay, it'll be this amount of time before something can come through.
Das wird interessant.
Yeah, it's a pretty big shift on it, and I'm looking forward to seeing folks kind of jump into using her. Yeah.
Cool. What about number 2?
Number 2. Okay, so again, no particular order on these, but this is the one I think is the big impact one, right? Ultimately, it's the fact that we're bringing an update to Smoke.
Yes.
And we are reissuing his deployable shield. Yeah, so it's back. It's a pretty big deal.
Okay, Schild ist wieder da.
It makes him a really, really strong anchor. Allows him to do carry a lot of weight.
Sehr schön. Ja, bestes Beispiel, wofür du es gebrauchen kannst, als Smoke, ne?
That's bringing the shield. So really excited to have this come back.
And what about the 3rd operator then?
The 3rd, this one's fun too, is Jackal. We're actually diving into Jackal here and updating on how he can essentially get the scans to work. And it's playing with verticality.
Yo!
It's a huge thing in Siege. It's something we want to embrace more.
Das ist ja sick.
In Siege, in most
Jetzt kannst du auch von unten durch den Fußboden.
In this case, Jackal can use that shotgun, open up the floor, and then start scanning footprints from underneath, which allows him to have advantage to give that intel.
Das ist sick. Oh, ich sehe schon Macy J. Ich sehe schon Macy J.
So he becomes a bit of a menace from down below now.
All right, I love playing Jackal, so I'm excited about that change.
Macy J wird da bestimmt wieder irgendein ultra geiles Video zaubern. Weil der ja eher anstatt TDM-Meter-mäßig One-Shot-Headshot spielt, sprich eben auf Taktik geht und so eine Geschichten.
Yeah, so these changes are definitely focused on quality of life and kind of more refined. Like they're smaller changes to give you that extra little bit of comfort that you kind of look for, and you can feel that resistance sometimes when you're playing a game. And right off the bat, we're looking at glass. When you scope in with a scope, there's when you're moving, it'll get fuzzy. Everyone kind of has experienced this. It normally takes about 12 seconds to fully lose its image. We've bumped that up to 15. So you have a little bit more time to keep that movement going and be able to kind of move a bit, stop, get that control, reset it, move a bit, stop, get that control, reset it. So again, quality of life, just giving you a little bit more functionality. And 12 to 15, again, 1 second to lifetime, it can make a big difference. Outside of that, we have an update for Clash. The taser will be actually increased by 5 seconds, so it'll last a little bit longer, just to give her that extra little bit of flexibility there. Grim, okay, we got to talk about Grim.
Needs a buff.
Yeah, more buffs. No, okay. So here's the thing. Nerfs are not gone. And that's the thing that we have to kind of address and look at. But the one thing is the day of doing multiple nerfs that are really heavy-handed, that is gone.
Okay.
Unless there's an emergency. And I want to be very clear about that. Because
Im Notfall nur noch ein Buff.
We want to embrace the fun. We want to have an enjoyable experience for everyone. But we want to be competitive. This is Siege, and we take the game serious, and we want to be kind of locked in. So occasionally we are going to have to nerf stuff down, bring things in a line a little bit.
Right.
And we're doing that with Grim. This is for more high-level play as well. So basically, when you shoot the canister, there's 2 stages to it. It shoot it out, and then it deploys the actual payload that has the bees in it. During that deployment, that payload is vulnerable. You can shoot it. We're increasing the window in which you're going to be able to take it down. So again, if he's using the bailiff, opens up the wall on site, and lobs one of these into the site, you're going to have the chance to be able to deal with it. At least a bigger window to deal with.
That audio cue as well for that when that
yeah,
canister,
like the click, and then the boom. Well, depending if it's a bank shot.
Oh, das ist auch nicht verkehrt bei Grim, dass du die Möglichkeit hast, ein bisschen, also wahrscheinlich eine halbe Sekunde oder so.
Obviously, if you land in one of these traps, you're not having a good day. But like, if you pull yourself out of the trap, you get a 60-second debuff, which makes you limp, makes you leave a trail, and makes you make a lot of noise. You're kind of dead to rights at this point, usually. But yeah, we're just going to twist the knife more. We're adding 10 seconds to that debuff. So it's 70 seconds if you get...
Von 60 auf 70 Sekunden erhöht. Dass du bluten tust, die Spur verlässt und noch so dizzy bist. Na, sehr schön. Sehr schön.
Or B, just don't, drone. Don't go in the trap in the first place. So that's kind of the aspect there. And then last we have Thunderbird. Thunderbird, healing in Siege is always an interesting one, and one of the key things is rate of healing. This is something we've been looking into a bunch. So we're adjusting the rate of healing of her Kona stations from 2 HP a second to 3. So you'll actually get the full health a lot faster, and you will get the full health.
Oh, von 2 auf 3 pro Sekunde schneller dann.
This is I guess a representative of a shift in our mentality in terms of balancing. This is not going to be the last time we do mid-season balancing. This is now a permanent thing that we're going to be looking at every season, correct?
Yeah, we're going to be doing the mid-season balancing as well as when we launch. Also, we have 2 refines per season, so we've been doing a lot of buffs and we've been doing a lot of updates, and it's going to keep going. So it's even we're doing a big mid-season now. 3 weeks later, we're going to be doing a refine balancing, and then after that, S2 comes, another big major balancing is going to hit with that season as well. So there's a lot coming, and the game is changing often.
Yeah.
And I think that's exciting, personally.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a big thing for us to be able to deploy updates every 3 weeks, because that's ultimately what we're doing, and have access to that, like a live service approach, is incredible. It allows us to be more reactive if a situation arises, but also allows us to plan stuff like kind of further out, make touch points with our community through those surveys, or even seeing them in person at different events, and be able to bring that feedback in faster because we actually have access to it. We're able to do that. I think one thing to note though is that even though I won't leak all the changes we have coming because there's so much stuff coming, but the reality is if we do massive drops of like 50 changes or something like that, we lose track of how we can actually track the game and understand what's impacting what. So it's important that we are staging that stuff in order to react to the impact that this has. As everyone who like really is in deep into Siege one factor can have a cascading effect across multiple operators and just multiple sites and kind of do this thing. So we need that data to kind of solidify as it moves forward too.
And speaking of data, we do have testing grounds that you've used in the past, right? For other types of changes. Is this something you would
Logisch, ne? Dass ein Operator bei einer Änderung nicht nur einen betrifft, also von den anderen Operatoren.
Slower approach to it, right?
With testing ground, well, when we talk about our balancing and everything like this, one of the big thing is like we've had the opportunity of doing workshops with players at say the major and the SI and stuff like this. Getting stuff in players' hands early, getting the feedback, that's one way we can do that, especially with balancing. When it comes to testing grounds, this is more systemic level changes. Speed and armor was the one that we had tested first, and then, I mean, we have half reinforcements coming later this year. These are systemic things, and even with half reinforcements, it's really about how does that fit in the system? Where is it going to go? But that's the avenue we want to apply testing ground kind of that platform for. But yeah.
Okay, and I guess next question is, what's your ideal outcome, right? All these changes are coming through. You're watching what's happening. What's the best thing that can happen out of all this for each operator, for example?
I mean, it sounds kind of cheesy, but just that people are having fun. Like,
makes sense.
This is honestly what it all comes down to, is that as much as Siege is super competitive and we want to take it serious, like, it's still a video game, it's still entertainment, and it needs to be that first. We need to have fun with it. And that's fundamentally what we want to strive towards, is that you're not booting up the game and being frustrated the whole time you're playing, but you're having a great time.
Doch, das ist Rainbow. Du startest das Spiel und bist gefühlt schon frustriert, weil du genau weißt, in was für ein Bruch du gehst, wie man so schön sagt, ne? Aber gehst trotzdem mit einem Lächeln gefühlt rein und freust dich.
Because it's a hard game. We know this, and we'll talk about that a little later with onboarding stuff. But like, it's the reality is we just want you to have fun when you're playing.
Yeah, and okay, did you want to?
Well, like I was just saying, like with the changes to the maps through the ranked map rotations, the changes to the balancing, the game is evolving at a faster pace than ever. Like just the Jackal change, you know, being a scan from Jackal from below, and then being able to play off of like a Jackal scan with communication within your team.
Ja, Jackal, Lion, Dockaby und dann da bist du ja schon am Nerven hoch 5. Grim auch noch dazu, da hast du auch und Deimos und dann perfekte gefühlt, weißt du, wo jeder ist. Funktioniert nur nicht.
Weapons as well as like the different types of weapons that are, you know, being discussed within the community and how to make those changes appropriately. So we are listening to the community.
I think that's a really good point to mention, though, is the fact that the rate of change, this is a significant adjustment for Siege, like coming out of year 10, season 4 and into year 11. And we are monitoring that closely to see how the community is reacting to it, and less or more and whatnot. But like you said, listening, especially when it comes to balancing, we know there are key things that the community is talking about, and I won't leak the stuff. But if I can tease a few things we are looking at, if that's all right. I like how I'm asking permission. I'm just going to do it anyway. But like we know, like Iona, Nock, Zofia, these that players are giving us feedback on, and we're actively digging into them.
Okay, cool. And I think something else that's really interesting about these changes, right, is that it can also change the meta a little bit in terms of the way people play, and maybe people might start exploring new operators. Is that kind of the intent here, or is it just kind of a nice...
Ja, ist halt sowieso neue Operator ausprobieren und nicht immer nur die gleichen 3, 4, 5, 6 maximal, die man sowieso spielt. Schon sinnvoll, plus eben auch noch auch bei den Maps.
So that like all these things just keep changing and evolving, and then we get to kind of play and almost like kind of counter through different buffs, operators that are now being brought into that rotation and are on the field and can make a difference.
Mm-hmm. Nice. All right. Well, that being said, we talked about fair. We talked about maybe a little frustrating sometimes for some operators, and yeah, there's one operator, of course, that is fun to play, but sometimes can be frustrating to go against, and that is Dokkaebi, right? And that's why, you know, we got this Dokkaebi Remaster announced.
Auch wieder interessant, ne? Spielen hier wieder nur mit dem Einservisier. Ist das? Ich weiß immer nicht, ob das 1 oder anderthalb.
Yeah, it's in part of that. I mean, with all remasters, we have a very specific kind of approach, which is we've exhausted all of their balancing levers to really bring them in line and alleviate the problems. Which Doka had a huge frustration problem around her. The fact that one operator with one charge of a primary gadget can affect an entire opposing team and in multiple ways. Like, she can reveal your location, making you an easier target to kill, give away any strategy of stealth or something like this, if that's what you're trying to do. And then if she hacks a phone, say goodbye to all your primary gadgets if you're Maestro, Echo, or Valkyrie. And that's multiple gadgets just off the board, or now liabilities, not to mention BPCs and everything else. So
Na, stimmt schon, aber
power space in which he was holding. The thing is, just using the same mentality as balancing is like, we don't want to strip her of the fun. She is an absolute hacking mastermind, and we want to make sure she maintains that and keeps that essence alive, and really shows up in a big way and has, again,
ja,
control
keine Änderung, aber Operator, großartig.
impact. Just maybe not as global with how she was attacking everything all at once.
I think the important thing, right, is that you're maintaining her essence, correct?
Yeah. So I think there's a couple of interesting things that are happening, especially with Doka, is when we look at her, we have a bit of a new approach too, where narratively, a lot's happened to her. She was captured by Carries, and she went through a lot of stuff. So that'll change you, and it kind of evolve the way you look at the world and how you go about it. And we've initialized that into the character development of her remaster. So because of those events, she is taking a different approach on how she does what she does. It's very targeted, it's very precise, and I'll spoil everything, but I won't.
No, we won't spoil anything. Guys, if you want more information on the Doka Remaster, it will be revealed with the Season 2 reveal happening at the Major in Salt Lake City. So make sure you tune in for that.
Right,
For all the details there. But we'll end that discussion for now before maybe Josh says something we shouldn't say. No, I'm kidding. All right, let's go into a discussion now on future remasters, right? Are there any others that are coming?
Yeah, well, we announced that we're actually doing another remaster for Season 4. This is our final remaster. We announced it at the SI.
Right.
Being that we won't go into the same kind of caliber of saying, hey, remaster this season, brand new op this season. Going to year 12, it's a new op every season. So this is our final remaster. The concept of reworking an operator isn't gone, though. And I want to make that clear. Like, we've kind of gotten to the point where we still have levers on our operators to kind of play with, but a rework of the past may still return, if that makes sense.
Okay.
Das letzte Remaster kommt Ende des Jahres, okay?
I think the core part is, even though we're going to new operators every season, we're not going to be neglecting those other operators. And if some needs a little bit more heavy lifting to kind of get the job done, we're still up for that task.
Yeah. And I think as far as teasing for my own personal health, I'm not going to do that.
Okay. Fair enough. Actually, one thing I wanted to talk about a little bit more is you mentioned that, remasters probably won't be happening, but you're still going to pull some levers, right?
Yep.
In terms of balancing in the future. So it might not be a remaster, but there'll still be changes that could be made. Perhaps like Aurora, for example, a lot of different changes coming through for her, and it's not really necessarily
Nice kill gerade.
Correct?
Yeah, like, I mean, like, she's a great example, but even I always keep going back to Thorn, but
Yeah,
a
Thorn, yes.
pretty strong one where those are levers built into her already, and we were able to revamp how she played in the game, and really, honestly, I think bring her to where everybody felt she should be.
Yeah, she's probably like
Yeah,
a
so
big change from where she was.
So that was a pretty big deal to be able to do that, and that is using the levers we have in place, because every time we build a new operator, like everyone that's in development right now, the key aspect is to have multiple levers in place so that we can continue to tune them as the game evolves, because we know it's going to evolve. Players are going to get better. They're going to change up their strategies. We want to be able to be reactive, and the key way of doing that is making sure we have those levers in place. So even from a new operator design point of view, we've adjusted the way that we kind of do our new ops.
Fair enough. All right, and we are already seeing on your screen, guys, we're jumping back into the STL match to see what's going on here. And do you know which teams are? Oh, there we go. Drone Speedsters up against Expendables. I love the names. Any research that you're going to be doing on? Are you going to be facing these guys? You have a match later, right? Josh?
I do have a match. As soon as I'm done this, I have to pack my stuff at my desk and then run home because I have my match. But the funny part about the names too is that the names are they carry over season to season. So the players swap out, but the name remains. So you become part of the legacy of the team. Which
history
cool.
there.
Yeah, and there's Discord channels that we're talking in and stuff. But the funny part about that is the team I shouldn't say this because if they're watching, but the team I'm going against today, I'm still in their Discord channel.
Oh, John.
Oh,
Evil.
Inside info.
I didn't check. But
Im Discord des alten Teams drin.
maybe on my way home. We'll take a look.
Oh, my goodness. All right. Well,
Unmöglich.
let's jump into our next topic here. And I mean, this kind of ties in with what we're doing at STL. You know, we have that more recruit league that's coming through. And obviously, we're always looking at ways to make people feel more comfortable when they're onboarding. And, you know, that's what's happening here.
Neue
with
Leute.
this, new onboarding experience, Chris, that's going to be coming through. That being said, there was already an onboarding system in place. It was working. It seemed to be working. Why change it now?
Yeah, so onboarding is what we call an ever active topic.
Right.
It's never going to go away for Siege. The skill floor is just too high. As much as we try to lower it through all the different onboarding changes and so on, it just remains a very high skill floor. We tried to adjust the skill floor without touching the skill ceiling, because that's what makes Siege Siege, right? Is that it has a very high skill ceiling. So one of the key aspects that we've been really looking at is, how do we continue to improve? We've actually seen a lot of improvements, especially starting in Season 4. We had bot teammates that had shown up. That's working very well. We had the Clear House that got added, a great PvE way to learn maps. We had the mini map appear for the first time. We have a lot of different improvements that have been slowly rolling out. And we
Was
have
kommt
seen
Neues
lots of
jetzt?
big gains. But yes, we are going to be adding a new feature coming in Season 2.
And what does the new onboarding plan look like, I guess, my question then?
So it's centered around our bots. So our bots are machine learning bots, as you might remember. So that means we don't have a designer telling the bot how to behave or where to place a gadget or where to go roam or so on. We actually feed it live player data, and then the bots just act out that data. So where to place the gadgets, where to roam, where to anchor, which weapon to use,
Okay.
which secondary to
Den
use,
KI mit
all of
Live-Features
those
machen,
things
gucken, wo es hingeht,
directly
und die
from the
übernehmen
bots
das.
themselves. So for the first time, we're actually going to be bringing bots into Quick Match exclusively for new installs only.
Okay.
So if you've just installed the game, you've never played Siege before, there's a chance in your very, very first matches of Quick Match.
Oh, okay. In Quick Match gegen die Bots, aber nur für neue Installationen. Und wahrscheinlich ab irgendeinem Level fällt das raus.
Going up against Quick Match, it's very, very difficult for us to, give them or tweak with them a positive experience. Basically, a lot of our players, even if we try with our, skill-based matchmaking or, trying to incorporate with clearance level,
Spielen alle mit
it
dem
still
Einser,
has
ne?
limitations because players know maps, they know operators, they know how to play and counter, and new players just get destroyed, basically.
Yeah,
Okay, hier nicht.
To be honest with you, I used to play at the beginning of Siege, and then I hadn't played for a long time, and then I started again, and I was like, oh my god, I'm getting
a lot of
absolutely destroyed. So yeah, this is a really good opportunity for like that to be a little bit slower and like just okay.
Das kann ja interessant werden, ne? Wenn du als Neuan wirklich komplett neue Installationen hast und dann in Quick Match gegen solche Bots spielst und dann wird die Diskussion wieder los.
Well, absolutely. There's phase 1. So phase 1 is again, this is exclusively for new installs that have never played before. They will play against with bot teammates going up against a team of bots. After they play a couple matches, they go to phase 2 where they have players on their team and they're going up against bots. And then finally phase 3, which is an improved matchmaking that we're trying with, including the level as a higher value to try to match those new players together. So this is something that we're testing. I do know, and I'm aware, that it's a sensitive topic, bringing bots into Quick Match. Again, it's exclusively only for new installs, new players. But we are talking today with our most active community. So if there's opportunities where players see for us to maybe bring bots into other situations, we're open to listening. I'm okay to come back to a live stream like this and say how it went. This is a test that we're doing in Season 2 with those new installs, with those new players, and let players know how did it go.
Das stimmt allerdings.
But thinking about situations, right? Like,
aber wenn das nur für Neue ist, also wirklich Neue, die dann mit KI-Bots zusammen gegen andere KI, also gegnerisches Team ist voll mit KI-Bots spielt, um überhaupt reinzukommen, weil man komplett neu ist. Ich weiß nicht, ob das so verkehrt ist, das noch nicht. Also ich verstehe den Gedanken. Ob es ankommt, ist eine andere Frage.
That's just one example. Another example could be I'm a player that hasn't played for years and I come back to Siege. Maybe it's okay to have a couple bot matches to kind of warm up in that experience. But again, that's not what we're doing with Season 2. With Season 2 is just, I've never played Siege before. I click on PvP, you might get a bot match.
Okay. I mean,
Okay.
by the way, guys, if you want to see stuff like that, like what Josh just mentioned in terms of bots, please let us know in the chat. We might do a seasonal survey at some point. Who knows? But yeah, we're always listening. We're always watching. We're always seeing what you guys want to have in the game. So
also, if I don't mind, just one more thing. Again, we are talking to our most active community today. So I'll just say, how to identify a bot.
Yeah, I think that's important.
So there's three ways that you can identify if it's a bot that you're playing against. One is there's a number at the start of their name. So that's one of the giveaways, is that bots would always start with a number at the beginning of their name.
Das sollte man nicht sagen, glaube ich.
Add them as a friend. And another one is you can't report them. So those buttons are just missing on the squad, like on the player profile panel, for example. So that's like a telltale sign.
Also alleine das mit der ersten Zahl ist drin, weil dann kann ich mir jetzt auch eine Zahl reinmachen und wäre theoretisch auch ein Bot. Wobei dann die anderen beiden Indikatoren, dass ich die nicht reporten kann, beziehungsweise auch nicht als Freund hinzufügen kann. Ja, okay, aber ne?
It's not important. I'm just curious, like, do you feel like they're representative of how a human might act in a real game?
Yeah, they're getting better. Honestly, we have a full team that's constantly working on our bots and improving them season by season, adding new bots to play as, or new operators that you can play against. Like there's some operators like a zombie that's been very difficult for us to bring into the bots matches. But ultimately they are improving. And do they replicate player behavior? Yes, because they're given player behavior to play off of. So they're basically kind of very common situations.
Werden wir etliche sich aufregen. Oh mein Gott.
Yeah, okay, this is actually an important one that I want to ask you. So, can you skip these phases if you just want to jump straight into PvP?
So for Season 2, the answer is no. The reason why, again, it's a test. We're wanting to see what the value is on having those bot matches at the beginning of a player's journey. So encouraging that we do have the data ultimately on reflecting our players playing more matches. Are they sticking around? Are they falling in love with the uniqueness of Siege? Those are interesting data points that we really want to learn. So in Season 2, the answer is no, but for the future, we'll discuss. And again, I'm happy to come back and report back on how the test went.
Absolutely. And I think we already covered this next one that I was curious about, but like, will bots be introduced in regular game modes, or is it strictly for onboarding? But you already mentioned, right, that's something that we want to hear
exclusively for new installs.
Yeah, exclusively for new installs, and that's it. So yeah, I think that pretty much covers up our conversation on that one. But one more topic we kind of want to go through is,
wie gesagt, ich weiß, wo es herkommt. Ob es klappen wird, die Umsetzung, das ist immer das Problem.
And what we talked about previously, and let you guys know how it's going. So I guess my question to you then, Chris, is how are things going? Is there any updates you want to share?
Yeah, so last time we did a community live stream, it was 100% focused on player protection. Actually, no, we touched on testing grounds as well, but mostly it was on player protection. So ultimately, we announced that we were going to start banning on Mousetrap, and I'm happy to say that we have started banning on Mousetrap. We've been banning our worst offenders.
Okay, Mousetrap ist jetzt gebannt oder wird.
Telltale signs of being a bad actor within our community, and Mousetrap bans have begun. Additionally, we did a major update to Mousetrap, and we found it to be 6 times more effective identifying a mouse and keyboard in a console pool. We're well aware that there's more work to do in terms of detecting recoils. We mentioned last time in the community live stream, we are actively working on this, and we'll have more to announce.
Also die haben irgendwie ein Patch gemacht, also ich nenne es jetzt einfach mal so, die haben ein Patch gemacht, wo man jetzt 6-fach höhere oder bis zu 6-fach höhere Erkennung haben. Für Maus und Keyboard und Konsole.
Yeah, so last time we talked about the sensitivity levels. Like, not all players have the same sensitivity levels. What we've done is just basically taken a big step back in terms of how sensitive the systems have been. Players are likely noticing that they're getting flagged less often, right, than for the chat communications. Also, we completely stripped away the idea of something that's slightly offensive or moderately offensive. We just said, just let that roll. You don't see that yellow text anymore that says, hey, maybe this is offensive.
Yeah.
We just removed that idea altogether. There's one other thing that we've been working on, which is we've been trying to detect positive communication. So players that are making callouts, players that are saying, upstairs, downstairs, big tower. Like those.
Ich weiß nicht, ob ich das gut heiße. Also, nee, doch, sagen wir es mal so. Also das heißt ich nicht gut, dass mit dem Flex-System okay, ja, wird nicht mehr angezeigt, dann ist es so, aber dass das jetzt nicht mehr weiter verfolgt wird, wenn einer, ich sag mal, im Chat ein bisschen daneben benimmt, Also nicht mehr dem Maße, wie sie es vielleicht vorhatten, finde ich ehrlich gesagt nicht gut. Aber da bin ich, wie gesagt, da bin ich auch strikt, was das angeht.
It's a mouse and cat game. We're always updating our systems. We have a team that's fully committed to it. We've been ramping up. We had a lot of big wins, and it's going to be a topic that we're always going to be committing to fight against. And there's going to be up and downs, but stick with us because we are 100% committed to that fight.
Sounds good. All right. That does wrap up our coverage here, and I promise, guys, I haven't. Oh, yeah, I am there. Okay. Hey, I just thought my camera wasn't seeing. We're seeing a lot of STL coverage coming through, though. But yeah, if you guys have any questions that you want to ask in the chat, please do so now. If you already have been, we've been
Geht übrigens nur über den Twitch-Chat bei Rainbow
Or
Six
do we have some
Kanal.
pre-submitted questions that we want to cover here, and we'll go through them. Guys, feel free. Whoever wants to answer them, I'm just going to throw them out there. So first question is, and we may have already answered some of these, but is there a possibility of ranked map rotations while also removing the ban system?
So right now we're not looking at removing the ban system. We like the idea that it has some player agency in the match. So players can kind of choose, okay, I want to avoid that map, but I want to play on this map, etc. So we still feel the map ban phase has a place. I mentioned earlier in the discussion, we are updating the rules at how we populate those maps. You know, a showcased map.
Die Idee finde ich gar nicht mal so schlecht zu sagen, nee, weißt du.
So that's something that we are actually bringing for Season 2 with Rank 3.0. But as of right now, we're not removing the ban phase.
Okay, fair enough. And then on the Dokkaebi remaster, I'm not sure if we can answer this question, but I'm going to put it through anyway. If you can't, just tell me. So far, it looks like Deimos, where you choose someone and call them directly, which I think we kind of teased at SI, right?
Yeah, so
I don't have to go into it.
I won't go into too much, but yeah, she's definitely. It's not the global call ability is the thing that we talked about at SI being removed. She no longer calls everybody all at once. But we have to look at Dokkaebi's full kit. She had more functionality than just calling people. She could hack into the network, and that had functionality. So there's other aspects that are existing in her kit on what she can do, and of course, like the effect of what she's doing and how is that effective compared to, say, a Deimos? Where is that intel coming from? How is that being communicated? These all change those different vectors. She's still a hacking expert. I think that's the best way to do it with, threading the needle here.
Okay, fair enough. Next question, kind of very heavily focused on player protection here. When will we be seeing bans for macros and console cheaters?
Yeah, so we know it's a big topic. We are actively working on it. We mentioned last time we actually had some partnerships with some pro teams that kind of really helped us gather some recoil data, especially on PC. So
Makros und
PC
Konsolencheater.
console pool after will be looked at. It's something. It's a big topic for us. We're actively working on this.
Okay, and the next
Es wird dran gearbeitet.
pretty much the same thing, so we're going to move past that one. And then are ranked map rotations already being changed here? And we discussed that already.
Yeah, it's likely based on our seasonal survey where we kind of tease the fact that this season we're adding maps instead of swapping. And yeah, we did get cold feet on bringing some of those casual maps into ranked, but also we're listening to our community. Like we had the seasonal survey out there. Taking Favela as an example, over 70% of players said this would negatively affect my ranked experience. Like, it's how do you just add it and move forward? We're open to continuing those discussions. We do see opportunities with these Minimap reworks to bring
70% sagen, dass Villa jetzt nicht gut ist, also im Rank nicht gut ist.
Because we do want a larger pool so we can do the rotations more effectively.
Oh Gott.
The one thing that really came from that too is when we saw that data come in, we saw that 70%. I mean, that's a punch in the face. It's like, okay,
yeah,
we got to change our strategy here. And I remember the call we were in, and we were talking about it. We were with Max, who's our esports director, and we were going over like 9 maps. They're not moving. We need our 9 pro maps, 100%. And we were talking about it. And I remember Chris at one point just said, well, if we just add them all in? And then I was like, yeah, all right, let's do it. Because and again, we're chasing that fun and that entertainment, and that's kind of the joy of it. We're mid-season. Let's have a little spike of, fun and change things up a little bit.
Okay, and I guess another question on the maps, can you make it a map vote instead?
Yeah, so it's a big change. I guess ultimately at the end of the day, if you look at it when we added new maps, we added Emerald Plains. So this is now going back a long time ago, year 7, season 1. But we added Emerald Plains. It was the first map we had added in a long time, and it was just immediately banned and removed from the game. So would it have been voted on? Probably not.
Yeah.
We then took a stance and said, going in with Nighthaven Labs saying, well, guess what? It's a new map for at least its launch season. It's now going to be featured, and you won't be able to ban it. And what ended up happening is that Nighthaven's appreciation increased over time.
Yeah.
So, we've had some different learnings about, sometimes you kind of have to say, this season, we want it to feel different. We don't want it to feel more of the same. We have a new map. Guess what? It's going to get played.
Yeah, I think there are opportunities to find ways and get the community involved with decisions that are being taken here. Like, obviously, we're listening to the surveys, but I'll go back to and this is kind of off the cuff, I'll go back to the example when we launched that Ash bundle. There was 3 different versions of Ash, and the community voted on it, and then that's what went live. I would love for more opportunities to do stuff like this with the content in the game. So maybe there are other things we can do, but we'll discuss and we'll figure out what those kind of touch points are to get the community involved and have impact for what's showing up in the season.
All right, and go ahead.
I want to say one last thing. Like recently, we did an April Fool's stuff.
Yes,
right?
This is so good.
It was kind of like we're having fun. Obviously, we're bringing our most casual maps and putting it into our most competitive playlist that we have, and it was pretty well received.
Yeah.
Right. So just because it's not necessarily in rank doesn't mean that those maps need to stay in casual. I think we can find other ways to have fun.
Yeah, absolutely. Anything else? Okay, just want to make sure. Okay, and then the final question that we had pre-submitted, then I'll go to the live questions. For Secure Boot, will it eventually be rolled out into ranked and the whole game? I think we kind of covered this last time, but let's reiterate again.
Yeah, so Secure Boot is definitely going to get rolled out. It's part of our R6 Shield Guard secure platform, which includes
Ja, und wann kommt Secure Boot bitte?
and many other aspects. But ultimately, that's going to be launching for Legend Division. We're going to have that roll out. We're going to see how that goes. And then if we get big wins through that system, then yes, we'll be looking at, where else do we bring it, including ranked. So that is a target for us, but it's not necessarily something that we will be doing in the short term. For now, it's exclusive to the Legend Division.
Okay. It's like Chris mentioned, like when it comes to anti-cheat and protecting the game, this is an ongoing battle. We are never going to neglect tools that are available to us that allow us to secure the game. Yeah. And that's really what it is. And we are constantly looking at new technologies and new things that we can do and implement in order to keep the game secure so we can all just enjoy the game.
Okay.
Ja, das stimmt leider gegen Cheats. Das wird immer ein Kampf sein.
That we want to address here, and that's in terms of marketplace, right? And what's happening there. Maybe you can give a quick rundown of what the current status is.
Yeah, so marketplace is still closed, and ultimately we're just looking at account security. It opened up a lot of different, exploits for players to be targeted for their accounts, for their inventories, for many different aspects, and we just need to make sure that we keep players safe. So at the end of the day, that's where the work is going right now. It's less about because we don't want it as part of the. Oh my!
There goes our.
Also das Inventar drin wird abgerissen. Sehr schön.
But no, ultimately, we're looking at account security, and when we feel that the account security efforts are matched up to the expectations we have for marketplace, we'll be looking at that.
Ja, das ist das Problem, ne, bei Marketplace, die Account-Sicherheit.
A lot of it was honestly about marketplace. I think people are just wondering what's going to be happening.
Yeah, there's a lot of appetite for marketplace, and I understand that as well.
Yeah, for sure. Someone's asking about DMRs, and will they be updated or rebalanced?
We are actually looking at DMRs right now.
Okay.
So as I mentioned earlier, we were talking about like nerfing different things because DMRs are definitely in the category of there needs to be adjustment there. And the question is, how do you do it without completely killing the weapon class? And we have multiple avenues we're looking at and exploring, but that test
DMRs werden bearbeitet, okay.
It's been something we've talked to our pros in the pro workshops to get an understanding, because obviously DMRs show up a lot more at higher level lobbies just by the very nature of it. And that's the funny thing is when you look at the data, their pick rate is like substantially smaller than like full ARs and stuff like this, but just by the nature of the beast, you have to hit your shots, and you're probably seeing it in STL. Like I'm sure people are running them, but ultimately we are looking at them and trying to find essentially the best solution to keep them controlling the space, just like an operator, but within the armory. So
I would say like also when you mentioned the bouncing and looking at we don't look at just percentages. We look at the MMR, the play rate within those different. Ultimately, there's a bell curve. So when you go to the higher MMR, it is a smaller percentage of players because it's just a bell curve. That's naturally how things will work. But we take that very seriously. Like we're not discounting it because it's a small percentage. In fact, that's the top of our game. So we do pay close attention to what's happening there.
Right.
And I think we've mentioned in a couple of other things, like whenever we see, let's say, like SIs going on, whatever is happening on SI is going to show up in the game at all, like multiple ranks, much further down than you'd expect, just because people start to mimic the strats that they see, and they're like, okay, well, if they're running this DMR or whatever, I got to learn it, and then it can amplify the impact in the overall game.
Genau.
It's definitely something we're monitoring and adjusting. So regardless of how
Die Strats übernehmen, beziehungsweise wie ich mit den Waffen umgehe.
Okay. We have some more fun questions, let's say, coming in. Will we see night maps? Can we talk about that at all? I mean, it's just been asked a lot.
No. So the one thing I've said about just lighting in general when it comes to Siege is we did a huge update for Siege X, like just overhauled our entire lighting system, but that system's maturing. This is something that we're doing. We're improving it in the back end for just development purposes, like behind the scenes development, making sure it's easier for our teams to use and our artists to use.
Yeah.
You can see that with the modernized maps. You'll see just them looking so much more rich with everything going on. But it's an evolution of tech, and we have to continue to make those evolutions. So investments in Siege, investments in where we can take the game are things that we're always talking about. So, it's the best non-direct answer. Don't worry, I'm calling myself on it. It's fine.
No worries. I mean, look, we got. I mean, we were talking about balancing and stuff like that. People are asking a 1.5 scope.
1.5, yeah. So how do I? So 1.5 is a really interesting one because it had all the benefits with none of the negatives. And that's one of the things we talk about in Siege is that there's pros and cons to every action you take, and there's pros and cons to everything you bring in your gear. So
Richtig.
if you bring the DMR, you better hit your shots.
Yeah.
And as we can tell, not all players are at that skill, so they'll stay to fully automatic weapons.
Right.
But that's the same thing. Depending on what you're bringing in the field, there has to be the repercussions for doing so, because the consequences.
Richtig. DMR musst du eben treffen oder du musst eben doch eine Automatik.
It was the joy of everything, and I'm gonna admit I love the thing too. Like, this is not like not liking it, but finding how we can make comfort there, because there is a very real comfort conversation about that, especially honestly when we talk about console players, they sit 12 feet 8 feet away from their TV and stuff like this, so having the proper magnification, it makes a big difference. We are constantly reevaluating different sites being the actual attachment, and looking into new ways in which we can enhance that experience in the gunplay overall. But again, you can't have all the things, because if you have all the things on one thing, you choose nothing else, and nothing else has purpose. So
Richtig.
Another question on weapon balancing. Will the SMG 12 be nerfed, updated, or balanced?
Can I just say yes to all those?
Okay.
Because it will. Yeah, we're looking at it right now.
Not in this patch, but it's definitely a focus.
Yeah. Because again, listening to the community and looking at this stuff.
Nicht böse gemeint, aber die Aussage mit dem Fokus.
Yes, but you don't know which one of those I said yes to. So. Yeah.
No, it's cool. Yeah, I'm just sorry. There's a lot of stuff coming in now. Again, I don't know if we can say anything here. You kind of hinted at it before, Josh, but someone's asking, when are we getting Nox, Zofia, and Yana buffs?
That I'm not going to spoil.
Yeah,
No. See, the funny thing with there are a few levers left to play with on these operators and to take a look in. But I'll be honest, if we get to the point where those levers aren't making the needle move the way we need to, then it falls into that new kind of the rework territory.
Right.
And I think that's honestly, I can see that conversation in the community where people are like, oh, this needs to be a remaster or rework this. And the reality is we want to try a couple more levers before we go that far.
Okay.
But that's how much care we have for each one of our operators, that we don't want any of them to be questioned for their position in the game. We want them to be like, yeah, they're awesome at XYZ. I love that they're in my roster. I'm super pumped that I have learned to play them, because again, if you have a deep operator roster and you can just swap through, target ban me all day long, it's not going to matter. You're going to run out of bans, right? Exactly. So it's and that's ultimately the goal there.
As long as each operator owns their own little space, right? I guess is the point. Okay, cool. And then another question here: could we see secure area or hostage come to unranked or have a weekly highlight playlist?
Oh, well, that's interesting. So we announced at the SI that we were looking into, where does hostage fit ultimately. Secure area is in that same conversation. looking globally at the 3 game modes that we have today, like right now they're just lumped into quick match, and you have an option to kind of turn them on or off. Most people have turned them off, and then they just forget what their settings were.
Right.
And then after that, they just go and they click quick match and they play bomb. Trying to highlight those modes because there are core modes that have been around for a long time. Like Hostage is dear to my own personal heart because it was like the reveal trailer, right? Like they were playing Hostage.
Right, yeah.
So, trying to see if we can kind of capture the magic of those modes and try to highlight them. We talked about having fun with the Siege Cup. Like that could be a potential way, but we are looking at ways that we can support those modes more than we are today. But I think at the end of the day, learn this through Dualfront, is that those modes need to be played. So how can we highlight those modes?
Geisel und Secure Area in Unranked.
Make sure that we can service them. And what we've heard from players, we actually did some workshops recently, is that at the end of the day, there needs to be some kind of competitive edge with these game modes, or else they just kind of fall flat. So we'll be looking at that more directly of like, okay, how can we kind of support that in the future? But we have nothing to announce today.
Okay. Go ahead.
Well, I think the ultimate, like everything Chris said, is like bang on, and then the reality is we recognize that bomb is the central pillar of Siege.
Right.
Like there's no denying that. But Hostage and Secure Area very much could be supporting around that central pillar, and that's honestly where we're looking into, because we want to have that flexibility within the ecosystem of the game.
Very cool. Looking through more questions here. This one's kind of always a hot topic, so I
Wird wahrscheinlich noch was gemacht, aber die Frage ist, wann und wie noch.
Are you adding ACOGs back to Defenders? I don't know if you probably can't answer that directly at all, but
so
yeah.
Immer das Gleiche.
I'll say that the point has been, like, obviously, like it's been a point that we've talked about for, well, it's come up a bunch. It's not falling on deaf ears, if that makes sense. This is something we are actively listening to and making sure that we're finding ways in which we can do this. I mentioned we're looking at sites, so yeah. I know I'm being vague.
No, it's okay. I mean, you can't always say exactly, but we're looking at it. See, there you go. I think that's the point. And I'm looking through to see if we got more questions coming in. Not seeing anything. I want to give people like a couple.
1,5er Visier für Verteidigung. Gut geguckt, okay.
Topics we discussed today that maybe you feel we might have missed, or
I think honestly, like just how much players enjoy these conversations, and the types of topics that they'd want to see. Like we have lots of developers here on site that we can be talking to, talking about whether it's the universe and the lore, talking about our menu structures, talking about anything that they'd like to know about the game. Obviously, Josh and I are always available, but there's other developers here that can add a lot more insight into game development.
Das stimmt allerdings. Also ich muss sagen, das Format finde ich nicht verkehrt. Man könnte jetzt sagen, auch wenn es trocken ist, in Anführungsstrichen, aber die Idee ist auf jeden Fall nicht schlecht. Von daher weitermachen.
For tuning in to this community checkpoint. We will have another one very soon into the future. We're going to continue covering player protection. It's going to be an important focus for our community checkpoints, and of course other topics.
Das war schon.
Anything else you guys want to hear about? Please.
Eine Stunde lang ging das. Okay.
Now, we are signing off. Thank you so much for coming out, and hope you have a great day.
Thank you.
Thanks for watching. Genau, thanks for watching. Jo, war ein netter Insight. So gesehen. Und danke nochmal, dass ich das machen durfte an Ubisoft, so gesehen. Ja, wir sehen uns einfach beim nächsten Stream, sage ich mal, ne? Weil mehr habe ich nicht zuzufügen. Wie gesagt, Dokkaebi bekommt die Fähigkeit jetzt, zumindest was das, ich nenne es jetzt mal Anrufen ist, oder das Ping von den Operatoren jetzt nicht mehr an alles, sondern dann nur noch einzelne, sprich wie bei Demos. Aber eben kann immer noch die Hacking-Geschichte machen. Und sonst noch die einzelnen Operator, die sich verändern, war natürlich sehr interessant, muss ich sagen. Ja, wir sehen, und nächste Woche gibt es dann wohl den Patch. In diesem Sinne sage ich jetzt mal bis zum nächsten Mal. Jos, bis dann. Ciao, ciao.